Hi, good evening, everybody. So, good evening and welcome. And welcome to our year end Power BI Retrospective and Future Outlook panel at Stuttgart Power Platform User Group. So, nice to have you all here. And what we are going to do today, so we had a really exciting year behind us, and I don't see a better way to close it than like we are doing here now. So looking back, I have started this user group in February this year with an idea to bring closer some of the best speakers out there to the Power BI community. The idea was to have it once a month for 1 hour. And as you might have noticed already, we have ended this year with a weekly 1.5 hour sessions. And it was not because we planned it, but because the interest was amazing and the willingness to learn in the Power BI community is simply huge. So this success wouldn't be possible without my partner in crime, Christian Totte. You will see him today, who also put a great effort and great deal of time into this. I would also like to thank all of the speakers that joined us throughout the year, so for their time and effort in selflessly sharing their knowledge. I will not name all of them, as I don't want to miss anyone, but it was a real joy and pleasure to ingest all of your wisdom throughout the year, week by week, session by session. 2021 was action-packed, so Microsoft introduced us with some breakthrough features. Adoption of Power BI was growing at an unimaginable pace, and keeping up with all of that was a challenge sometimes. Today, on this panel, we'll try to go with you through all of the major things that happen in the Power BI world in the year behind us, but also we'll try to have a glimpse of what is the future bringing us. So I especially want to thank the entire community here, so for supporting us, for joining all of our sessions with interest and with a lot of passion for knowledge. Let's keep up the good work today, because there are also some surprises waiting for you from our sponsors. So we would like to thank Avanade, Microsoft, and Zebra BI that supported this event, and I want to use this opportunity to thank them once again. So we will draw some swag winners out of people that are posting their comments and questions in the chat on LinkedIn, and subscribers on our YouTube channel. And during the event, we will draw the winner of the main swag package and the winners of more than 20 additional packages. We'll post after the event on our channels on YouTube, on Twitter, and everywhere. So if you will be one of the winners, reach out to us, give us your contact details, and we'll send a package from our sponsors to you. But the swag is not actually what we are here for today. Today, we have with us some of the brightest minds in Power BI industry, and they will try to share with you their retrospective of what happened throughout this year and what are they expecting going forward. So I would not take you much more time, so let's get started, and I will invite our guests to share a few words about themselves, and then we can kickstart the event. So it is a pleasure and a privilege to announce them. And I would start with Melissa Coates. So Melissa, welcome, and hope we can see you. So Melissa is, for some reason, out of the chat. Melissa is disconnected. Okay, let's move the other way around. So let's wait for Melissa to rejoin, and let's start with introduction for Prathy. So Prathy Kamasani, I would say our visualization wizard. And Prathy, it's a pleasure having you here. I know you pretty well, but there might be still some people here in the audience that don't know you. So would you mind giving us a short introduction?
Yes. Thank you, Augustine, and thank you everyone for joining. And thank you so much for the nice introduction. I'm Prathy Kamasani. I don't know if I'm a data wizard or not, or visualization wizard or not, but I love data visualizations. And I think maybe because of that, I do create okay visualizations. So maybe that's where it comes from. So about me, I work at Avanade as a group manager, basically doing all the things about Power Platform, Power BI, mostly focused on Power BI, work with pretty much all big companies. So does Augustin, who works at Avanade. Um, yeah, we work with many clients, and which gives me a really nice opportunity to see all the challenges with the different clients. Every client has different problem. What else? I blog at prathy.com. I speak in the conferences. I run London Power BI user group along with James Dales. And yeah, that's I think that's pretty much. And I'm a Microsoft MVP and FDRCA, which I'm really proud of and really humbled of. And I think that's pretty much it is. Yeah,
Great,
just like
thanks.
thank you.
Thank you, Prathy, for introduction. We'll have a lot of chance to speak and chat throughout the entire event. And hopefully Melissa is now back with us. So let's see. Yes, she is. So Melissa, welcome. I wouldn't go.
Hey, I'm still troubleshooting some audio issues. Sorry.
No problem. So
I can't hear you.
You cannot hear us still. So let's, while Melissa is still troubleshooting, let's continue with a person actually which is trying to make music out of the data. So our well-known data Mozart. So Nikola, welcome. Nice to have you here. And while we all know you for your blog and everything, can you share a few words about yourself also?
Sure. Thanks, Augustin. Thanks for this nice introduction. And first of all, thanks for inviting me. I feel really privileged to be with all of you here today. Yes, so I consider myself still as a new face in Power BI world. Yes, as you said, I'm producing a lot of content, blogging, speaking at conferences, user group meetings, so on. And basically, so I'm located in Austria, in Salzburg. That's the reason why I chosen this nickname Data Mozart, because a lot of people ask me, why Data Mozart? Are you a fan of classic music? Not at all, to be honest. So it comes from the place where I live, because everything is in sign of Mozart. He is here in Salzburg, so I was brave enough to use his last name as part of my nickname. And yeah, I'm also blogging at data-mozart.com. Yeah, since this year I'm also data platform MVP, and yeah, learning a lot from all the amazing members of our community. So I'm really happy to be with you here today.
Yep. Thank you, Nikola. Thank you for introduction. So as well, we'll still discuss throughout the evening. And then let's move further. So next one we have with us is Matthew Roche. So Matthew is probably well known for his swords you see behind him, and as well as for his work in the Microsoft Power BI Cat team. So Matthew, it's a pleasure to have you with us in the Stuttgart user group again this year. And can you share a few words about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to join you in this August panel. But I am as Augustin mentioned, I'm a member of the Power BI Customer Advisory Team, which for me means that I get to help learn from some of the largest enterprise customers in the world and to share those learnings with the Power BI product team. So as they're deciding, what to do, what to prioritize, what to ship, what maybe to ship later, they rely on me and my team to help understand what are the problems that customers have, and what would be the impact of solving those problems. So being able to stand with one foot in the problem domain and one foot in the solution domain, sort of bridging those two worlds, is the core of my day-to-day job today. Before I joined the Power BI CAT team, I worked on a bunch of data governance and information management products, including Azure Data Catalog, SQL Server integration services, master data services, and data quality services. And before I joined Microsoft in 2008, I was an integration services MVP, data warehousing consultant. Basically, I've been doing data, BI, and ETL related things since the mid 90s. And seeing how Power BI has changed the way that people work with data, just really excited to be part of it, both for what we've done and what we're planning on doing as well.
Great, thank you, Matthew. So now let's give it a third try with Melissa Coates. So I don't think we need much introduction. So whenever I think of data governance, I think of Melissa. So Melissa, welcome. Nice to have you. And would you share a few intro words about yourself?
Hi, sure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This is fun. So I have been focusing on Microsoft-centric data warehousing and business intelligence for something in the neighborhood of 20 years now. I had a midlife career change from accounting to technology, which of course happens to a whole lot of us in this industry. And since that switchover, I've really been focused a lot on building enterprise data warehousing and BI solutions. But over the last few years, what has kept coming up more and more is customers that ask for help with how do we deploy and implement Power BI? Governance being one aspect of that, of course. So I've been self-employed for just over 2 years now, and my professional focus at the moment is really on Power BI administration and governance type of topics. I tend to think about that as all of the things that surround and support the people that actually do the work developing solutions.
Thank you, Melissa. So thank you very much for nice words. And last but not the least, with us this evening is Jeffrey Wang. So I was asked a lot of questions lately when we announced the event. How did you manage to get Jeffrey here? And it's really a pleasure to announce. Let's call it the father of DAX itself. So Jeffrey Wang, welcome, and it's such a pleasure to have you here and to spend the evening chatting with you tonight.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for the nice introduction, and it's really a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me. My name is Jeffrey Wang. I'm the engineer manager from the Microsoft Power BI product team. My team works on the DAX engine. So I've been working on the DAX engine actually from the beginning. I joined the Microsoft BI team 18 years ago. That's easy to remember because that's the year my daughter was born. So I remember my daughter's age. I remember how long I've been on this team. And that also actually back then, it was obviously before Power BI, we were working on analysis services, MDX, the OLAP engine. But I basically witnessed the transition of the team from a multidimensional database into today's tabular data model. It's a very exciting time. I wouldn't call myself the father of DAX, but definitely I was one of the original members on the team that works on the DAX language, and have been working on the improvement to DAX and the modeling engine Power BI ever since.
Thank you very much for the intro. And okay, let's move on. So I would like to have an open discussions here. So with let's open it with one question for each of you. All the others, of course, feel free to join. And before we jump into retrospective of the previous year, we'll have a block of questions. Also, Christian is picking up from the audience in the back end, so we'll go through them. So I would open with a question for Melissa. So Melissa has already said, so you are driving the data governance topics around Power BI for some time now. And can you tell us why you think the governance is so pivotal going forward? And what is your point of view there?
Sure. Love the question. And when I thought about it, it's really easy for a person or a team to get started with Power BI. What it gets much more difficult to do is to start scaling good self-service BI practices around the organization. And when we think about self-service BI, some level of chaos is a good thing. It's a productive thing. And I'm going to resist the urge to make a chaos reference to Witcher, but I guess I just did. Anyway, as we scale and we grow, some level of governance is necessary. And we think about that from two aspects. One is the traditional governance of risk mitigation, compliance with regulations, requirements, et cetera. The other is the one I'm a little bit more interested in, but both are really important. The other is, how do we help our content creators and our consumers actually use data? And so I believe governance is really important and really pivotal, because well-balanced governance practices that address both of those competing kind of sides of the coin, if you will, can do two big things. One, allow people to use the data within the established guardrails. And I believe, it's easier said than done, but I believe that we can actually improve the user experience, because if we convey what's allowed, why, how, all of that is clear and it's transparent to the people trying to use data, their experience is going to be better. Again, assuming that we approach it from a really nice, well-balanced perspective.
Great, thank you for that. So I would.
It looks like we've lost your audio, Augustine.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, great. So thank you, Melissa. Sorry for this. So I was thinking a lot, and one of my passions is also everything around governance. But hearing it from you really puts things in place. So thank you for that. So going forward with the questions. So I would go. Let's go the other way around. So Prathy, so you are well known for all of your topics around data visualization mostly. So how did you discover that passion, and what keeps you moving still when we are talking about data visualization?
Oh, well, when you said opposite, yeah, that's very true. And that, I think that's probably kind of sums up why I kind of focused on the data visualization. First reason is I love data visualization. I like this whole storytelling bit. That is what actually keeps me moving. And why I started focusing on that is because I saw the gap, especially in the data world, in the MSBI world. Most of the people are like, we come from the SQL background. We care about data modeling. We care about how good our data is. We love our DAX and everything. But when it comes to the business probably they do care, but the one thing they really care is it actually, can they understand whatever you are producing? And so maybe that's how it's all started, is like, because most of the times my clients encouraged me to do better visualizations is because I started doing really bad visualizations. They asked me questions and I kind of sharpened it. And yeah, that's pretty much the answer is very simple, is whatever client wants, we have to give them something, and in a more sleek way. So that's how it's all started. And the passion is just because I think Power BI makes it easy for me to keep it activated and keep it motivated, and also the community and everyone encourages. I think that's how it's get going.
Great.
Yeah.
Great, that's really good to hear. So let's move further. So Nikola, so let's visit Salzburg. So your blog is mostly focused on the most usual Power BI daily challenges users are facing. So what inspired you to start it, and what can you tell us about your journey becoming a Microsoft MVP?
Yeah, so the right question would not be what inspired me, but who inspired me. And that was my wife. So I need to mention this first. And yes, after I started blogging, the idea was to create the content as a reminder for my future self, because I keep forgetting things after a few months, what I did and how I did. So I started to write about this, and it appeared that a lot of people faced similar challenges, and they found my articles useful. They helped them to solve, as you said, daily problems, daily challenges. And I think that gave me additional motivation to continue producing content, because I'm one of the users of Power BI, of developers, so I can feel the pain of my colleagues that are doing the same job. And that was the main motivation, and that keeps me going with blogging.
So we need to thank your wife for bringing you here in this Power
Absolutely,
BI area.
absolutely.
Great.
She's
So,
MVP. So for me, she's MVP.
Yeah, Matthew is laughing there, so let's move to Matthew. So Matthew, your passion for data flows, data culture topics has brought you really a lot of attention throughout this year. So can you share with us what around Power BI is keeping you motivated? So you are many years in business intelligence world, working with from the beginning. So what still keeps you motivating when we are talking about Power BI?
Well, I think that the biggest thing is that there's always new challenges. There's always something to learn. There's always new problems to solve or new people to help. The thing that's interesting for me is that sitting so close to the product team as I do, I often get a chance to see what's coming before it's broadly available. And with data flows, because this was a new self-service data preparation capability that was so close to what I had built my pre-Microsoft career around, it was just a natural, it wasn't a conscious decision for me to jump in. It was just this thing that, oh my goodness, it's coming. I need to get my hands on it. And similar, I believe, to what Nikola was saying, once I started using the early pre-public preview capabilities and data flows, I wanted to share both for my future self and for the other people that would be discovering. And it just sort of snowballed from there. From a data culture perspective, I want to riff back on something that Melissa said about data governance. So she avoided the Witcher analogy, and I'm going to avoid that, even though there's, I think that if we look more closely at making magic from chaos, the parallels go deeper than you might think. But for me, that data culture, the potential and the importance of building a data culture comes from having people aligned to central ways of working and central goals and strategies. So think about learning to drive. If it was just you, if you were the only person, the only driver on the road, driving would be really easy. There'd be fewer things to hit. You wouldn't need to stop for red lights, things along those lines. And it would be very simple, but that's not the actual world that we live in. When we're driving, we need to be on the correct side of the road. We need to be within a reasonable variance of the speed limit. We need to take other drivers and road signs and road conditions into account. And this is just part of being, a member of society, a member of the culture that we live in. For building and maintaining a healthy data culture, ensuring that all of the drivers, so all of the self-service BI authors and consumers, that they understand what's allowed, what's not allowed, and how to do the right things the right way, making it so that doing things the right way is easier than doing things the wrong way. This is really, this is the interesting, hard problem that we don't have great solutions for yet. So for me, It's not a matter of how do I stay inspired or motivated. It's more about how do I find the places where I, as an individual, can make the biggest difference or the biggest impact. So we're never going to run out of problems. And this, for me, is the interesting problem today.
Yeah, great. It was inspiring thinking about that. So let's move with the first round of questions. Let's move to Jeffrey. So Jeffrey, looking at DAX itself, so you are the best person I can imagine describing to us why our users are still struggling with DAX, and what is the major complexity in it, and how would you tackle it?
Thanks for the question. I'm afraid that there's no short answer to this one, so you have to please bear with me. Since DAX users typically come from Excel users or SQL background, I want to use two examples of why it's hard for Excel users and why it sometimes frustrates the SQL users. Since DAX is primarily used to create measures, and the measures are created for a model and then reused in any report that's built on top of this model. So this reusability is the killer feature of measures. But in order to achieve it, we have to put in some abstraction, so it's not directly tied to any particular report. So that's why many Excel users say, oh, you have to learn data modeling, you have to learn evaluation context. So these are all the results of this abstraction. But that's not the most natural way for any beginners to learn any new programming language. They want to do it in a simple application, let's say in BI. They want to do it in a report. They want to add some fields to a report, and then they want to try out some DAX expressions based on the values and the numbers that they can see. So at this point of learning, reusability is not a top of mind priority for them. And for the Excel, for the SQL users, they are sometimes puzzled because they can use a DAX and the SQL to build identical or at least very similar reports. Yet the two programming languages work very differently to achieve the same result. The key difference here is still the measures. All the measures are independent of each other. So when you add two measures to the same report, and they actually are evaluated independently, at least from the conceptual level. For example, if you have a simple report, like you have a list of countries and you have like a sum of sales for each country, and then if you want to add another calculation, that's simply 2 times the sum of sales for each country. So a SQL user would not expect the DAX engine to scan the transaction table twice, the first time to calculate the sum of sales for each country, and the second time to scan it again, just to calculate 2 times the sum of sales for each country. But conceptually, that's exactly what DAX engine is supposed to do, because all the measures are independent of each other. Of course, I'm not saying that's what the DAX engine actually does. We have a ton of optimizations we built into the engine to make sure that the simple queries like this are actually answered by scanning the transaction tables only once to fill in both numbers. But that's the fundamental difference in the how the DAX query works and the SQL query works. So for many SQL users, when they write complex enough calculations or when they build complex enough models, they suddenly get bad performance unexpectedly. So sorry, my office light just turned off itself. So now it's back on. Sorry. And so what I observed that what frustrating or confusing to beginners a lot is the type of DAX calculations that they need to refer to some values they can already see on the same report, but in a different row or in different rows. For example, if they already have a total sales for a bunch of years, and they want to define a new calculation that refers to the sales in a previous year. So for them, they already have the value there, and their mental model is to somehow get to that value. But that's not how DAX measures work, because as I said, they're all independent of each other. So to address this problem, so what we're doing right now, I can give you a little bit behind the scene. What we're doing here is we're thinking about adding a new type of calculation. So I just temporarily call it, let's say, visual calc, like a for visual calculation. So what it means is it's a lot closer to Excel calculations. It's a way for users to be able to refer to define a DAX calculation, to refer to values they can already see on the same report. And this type of things will be much more natural to Excel users, and also will give the SQL users the expected performance, because will guarantee that when you define visual calc, you will not go back to the physical table, because the calculation depends on all the values that's already in the report. Even though the visual calc itself will not solve the problem that the DAX measure is hard, but that's because writing reusable calculations is just fundamentally harder than writing a single-use calculation. But I think if we introduce this new type of calculation, we will delay the need for many beginners to learn the hard part of DAX measures too early in the learning curve, because users can define many frequently needed complex calculations in a more intuitive fashion.
Yeah, when you are talking about DAX, it sounds so easy, and like everybody can just jump in and do everything quickly. So I will head over to Christian now. So I think Christian is collecting some of the questions we received in advance, and he will bring up a few of those now, and then we are going into a retrospective part of today's panel. Christian, ready?
Yes, thanks a lot. As Augustine said, some of the questions that we received before the call, when we were announcing all the speakers and this great panel of speakers, we will ask now. And if there's any upcoming questions during the call, please feel free to put them in, and we can address them in a second round of questions. Let us start with one question that we just got. Just second, and from Jochen Stein. What was your Power BI highlight in 2021? As this is not directed to anyone in particular, I would just put it out there. So whoever would like to say something, feel free. Who wants to grab it?
Well, I could probably start saying the Power BI highlight for me this year is like, even though we being in the pandemic and whatever, in the tough times, we still had a lot of community engagement. Like, that hasn't been lacked. I know there's so many amazing Power BI features has been released, but however, I think this community engagement has been still great. So I could say that's my highlight of the year.
Now I feel bad that I let Prathy go first, because this was going to be my highlight as well. I've mentioned this.
Same.
But it's just the world that we live in is so isolated. We're like physically and socially isolated from each other. But in 2020 and 2021, I have spoken at more events and made more virtual contacts with more community groups than I have in any other time period before this. So there's less travel and less face-to-face. But the fact that the community, whether it's this user group, Guy in a Cube, or other community-centric ongoing online events, it's kept me connected and at least as sane as I still am. So that for me is definitely it's definitely the highlight that jumps out at me. If I were to flip this around and put a more feature specific or capability released this year specific thing, I'd actually like to highlight some of the governance capabilities that have come to Power BI this calendar year. Back in April, we released the Scanner API, which is a new REST API that makes it easier and more scalable for administrators to understand and manage the contents of their very large tenants, so that if you have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of workspaces, understanding what exists and who's using what, this is now easier than it ever was before, as well as some of the related complementary capabilities that have been delivered in the Datasets Hub in the Power BI service, enabling data discovery and reuse directly within inside of Power BI. And these aren't the exciting capabilities like somebody's going to talk about hybrid tables or spark lines, like some of these new early Christmas presents that were announced a few weeks ago. So those are cool too, but I think that these governance capabilities will change the way that people work with and think about data in Power BI for a long time to come.
Thanks. Anything to add? Otherwise, we can move to the next question. And I guess this one is a little bit similar, or goes in the same direction from what you just mentioned, Matthew. Which functionality is the one that you miss the most in Power BI at the moment?
Who will go with that one?
May I say two of them? I mean, both of them are planned, I know, for the first part of the next year. So hopefully it will be then. So first one is direct query over analysis services in Power BI data sets, or proxy models, like we like to call it in our community circles. Hopefully it will come generally available beginning next year finally. For me, that's also just to revert back to the previous question from technical perspective. I know it was announced in the end of 2020, but for me, I count it as a 2021 feature. That was something really amazing. And as I am data modeling guy, for me, that's the one thing that I expect that I miss at the moment. So, and the second one is having ability to, within a Power BI app, to set the permission level on the single artifact within the app. I also know that this is planned for the beginning of next year in the release plan, and hopefully, and keep my fingers crossed that it comes soon. So those are two features.
Since you mentioned the direct query to the Power BI datasets, since my team happens to be focusing on this very feature for the past almost like 2 to 3 years, we're working on the engine aspect. Of course, this feature requires a lot of working other parts of the product, including the service and their governance and their license issues, and also there are a lot of UI work, obviously. So my team, the primary focus is on the query engine, how the queries get sent the propagate way. So what I can say is we are working really hard to try to get this into GA, and there's a lot of demand in the market from this. This is also happens to be one of the more complex features, as you can imagine, because we are literally talking about direct query to another analysis services engine. So we have to support a full feature set. For example, our direct query to SQL, as you can see, is obviously not taking full advantage of all the SQL capabilities due to the different varieties of relational databases, the SQL, NoSQL databases out there. But analysis services is our baby, and we're supposed to do a better integration with them. So that's why it's a lot of features and sub feature, within under that umbrella. But I do expect that should get released in the new year sometime.
Thanks for all your effort. Yeah, really, that's really amazing.
Thanks for that. Anybody else wants to jump on this? Anything that you're missing at the moment? Otherwise,
so I have a list that's easily 100 items long, but I know that the Power BI product team, the product leaders, are sick of hearing it from me like day in and day out. The one thing that I want to call out, which isn't really a specific feature, but the thing that I really want to see Power BI support better than it does today is end-to-end operationalization, where the self-service BI artifacts created in Power BI, whether it's Power Query or DAX or other, that they can easily be transferred from an ownership and management perspective from a self-service author to a pro author and maintainer, so that the data culture of enabling that guided chaos from a self-service perspective, that can feed in from the flexible edge to the disciplined managed core, that could be easier with even going beyond what's in the product today.
And I just remember something that, especially now we have Microsoft people here, right? So I could say that is, and recently I worked on a project where we had to migrate like 23 tenants of Power BI into one tenant. And yeah, we can't do it. I would love to have that. Like able to migrate Power BI from one tenant to the other tenant.
API.
Okay. Sorry.
No. Just go ahead.
As we have a packed agenda and another set of questions that we can ask in the end, I would move along for now, hand it over to Augustine again, and please feel free to put any question in the comments, and we'll try to pick as many as we can in the end, just during the discussion.
We will try to pick as much as we can, and going forward. So let's look at the year behind us. So a year behind us was pretty challenging, as lots of you mentioned already. Constantly changing business environment. We were in a lockdown, out of lockdown, in office, out of office. It required a lot of effort from everyone. On the other hand, looking at Power BI, it was one of the most exciting years till now. And I'm personally working with Power BI since private preview. And what would you say, looking backwards? So what was the year like for you? What were the challenges you were facing? And what were you excited the most in this year behind us? So who would start to opening with it? For me personally, it was the pack of the features that really Microsoft brought us. So some better, some not so much polished in the beginning, but it was a really action-packed year. So Melissa, maybe you can start.
Sure. So from a governance perspective, there are a handful of things that I'm particularly excited about. The first one is a variety of new APIs, like Matthew mentioned, and they are not only for scanning your tenant and so forth. We're getting directed APIs to satisfy certain requirements. For instance, this person, what do they have access to throughout the entire tenant? And that kind of thing is massive. And I've got a companion thing to talk to when we get to the Outlook, because I'm really excited about one item on the release plan as far as that goes. But the information protection, the sensitivity labels, and the progress that we have so far there, and we're just going to see it, keep marching forward. That's exciting from a governance perspective, because those are things that we can start doing to define where does our sensitive data live, and to start putting some governance around it. For instance, if it's super sensitive, you can't download it to a local machine, or things like that are less disruptive to the normal user experience. At least that's the idea. The Purview integration. So from a data cataloging perspective, there's basically two sides of it. There's the datasets hub that Matthew mentioned. And that's fantastic for dataset discovery. And if anybody's ever heard me talk, I get really excited about reusing of data and data sets and so forth. And so the Datasets Hub helps with that. And Purview helps with, well, how do we catalog and discover all of the other types of artifacts, for instance, if we're looking for a report? And so I can just imagine all four of those things that I just mentioned. We got such a great start in 2021, and I can just imagine we're going to get more goodness in 2022.
Yep, completely there with you. So I don't know, Prathy, what would you say from your side?
So what am I excited for next year? Is it?
Or
Yeah.
how was this 2021 for you regarding the Power BI world around us?
See, how I look at it is like, especially I'm talking from the data visualization point of view. There are so many great things happen in Power BI. But when it comes to data visualization point of view, I haven't seen massively amazing thing. There are new custom visualizations. Obviously, the speed may have, better DAX gave us better reporting. There are we managed to be able to document better because of all the other things like scanner API, as Matthew mentioned, we would be able to see more things. But when I think it only from the data visualization point of view, there's nothing like groundbreaking happened, at least for me, except the only thing that I've got really excited recent times is the Power Automate button. It's like, I don't know if you remember when the bookmarks actually launched in the Power BI. The initial release of the bookmarks was I feel like the actual use case for the bookmarks was one thing, and once it started, everyone started using it like for the app design. The entire Power BI report designs changed when the Power BI bookmarks launch, and the way people report, like every designer, the way it reported, that has changed. So I when the Power Automate launched, I also looked at it more like this is groundbreaking. You could do so many things. It's not only actionable insights, but you could do actually real actions by having this Power Automate button, and you could integrate Power Apps and all those things. So that is kind of the only really exciting for me. I'm not talking for everyone. So in the future, what I'm thinking in the 2022 is probably we will have more data visualization magic happen in the Power BI world. Having said that, there is not, it's a great product. How much greatness you could add to it when it's already great. We can do some really cool visualizations. So I would probably say, just for myself, I would probably like to play more with Power Automate. I want to see what everyone can do with that kind of features, like take it to the next level. That's probably what I'm hoping in 22. And no COVID.
I hope that Microsoft will surprise us with some of the features that we weren't expecting. And thinking now about visuals, everything. When we come to DAX, Jeffrey, what's the feature in this year which is behind us now? What's the feature you are the most proud of that your team released or worked on, and why?
Well, my team works on everything related to DAX. To me, I already mentioned that our primary focus for my team has been on the direct query to Power BI datasets, and that actually consume the vast majority of the resources. Since it's not officially released yet, we can't claim victory just yet. Although most of the work on my team is done, at least from the GA perspective, but we do have a few very exciting new capabilities that are coming into this particular. Hopefully we can meet the GA deadline, and I personally would expect we'll be continually to work on this. Just like a direct query in general, there will be a lot of follow-up work that coming from the marketplace, I do expect, and the people are already abusing this feature before it's even getting released, as you can imagine, and because it just makes some like a traditionally overly impossible task seemingly like too easy. It's not easy. Okay, behind the scenes, not easy, and eventually physics does kick in. So that's the biggest thing I've been working on. In terms of other DAX features, we do release smaller things here and there. For example, the Spark line. Some people are excited about the new Spark line, so we have to add some DAX capability to support that. So for many of the like UI features out there, there has to be some behind the scene DAX support for it. But even though it's not a DAX feature itself, we added new functions, we did a performance improvement, and here and there. But the composite model is the biggest one.
Yeah, I didn't know that a lot of those features actually require also DAX support in the backend, so it's a good insight. And I see Matthew has a great companionship here. So Matthew, we can move to your side. Oh, she's beautiful. Or he.
Yes. Well, this is. Oh, there we go. So Jane came in to say hi and to yell at me and let me know that I wasn't doing a good job, because that's what Jane does. So for me, the work highlight of the year was being able to collaborate with Melissa on the Power BI adoption roadmap guidance that we published in July. Sort of riffing back to the topics of data governance and data culture, it's hard for organizations to understand how to use the features and capabilities that are in Power BI in their broader data estate successfully with both central enterprise BI and managed self-service BI at a reasonable scale. And with the adoption roadmap, what we tried to do was to share best practices guidance to understand more about where you are today, to better articulate the goals that you're trying to achieve, and then the steps that you can take to achieve those goals. So to me, this is really the most exciting work-related thing of the year. And I'm going to foreshadow my excited for 2022, but basically the big thing that happened this year, because not everybody is going to agree that guidance documentation is really the important thing. In the same summer timeframe, even though this was publicly announced, I never saw a lot of buzz about it, but we had a reorg at Microsoft this summer that brought the Power BI world and the broader Azure Synapse and analytics world closer together from an org chart perspective. And having Azure Synapse, Power BI, and the entire data integration team, which includes both Power Query, Azure Data Factory, and the connectivity like gateways and connectors stack as well, having all of these under the same leader, I think that this is going to enable some of the most exciting things that you've seen from Microsoft from a data and BI perspective. And obviously the details remain to be seen, but for me, that was the single biggest thing of the calendar year so far.
So yeah, looking forward to it, and yeah, everybody was really surprised with the document you Melissa and you created, and it was really useful. So I was to go back during that time when you were releasing it, I was with a client doing the governance project actually, and adoption and everything. And when you release it, it was like just a gift from heaven. So I said, yeah, we have something. Let's move on. So yeah, that for that part I was surprised. Nikola, so you spent your year, you were in close contact, blogging, doing conference speeches, all of those things. What would you said is the things that users out there on the sessions, conferences were requesting the most?
Yeah, that's a good question, and as usual, the only right answer is it depends. So from the audience, if it's a broad audience, I would say sessions with tips and tricks how to solve some daily challenges in Power BI using some simple techniques. Those are the ones that are the most popular without any doubt. So when attendees walk away from session and they know that tomorrow morning they can connect to Power BI and they can apply those tricks, I got most positive feedback from those sessions. But also there are many sessions that go deep dive into some specific topic like performance optimization or something like this, where basically you have I would say lower number of interested people to hear about this, but they are already more involved in Power BI trenches, so they know how things are working, and they are interested to know how to solve some specific issue, some specific challenge, be it from data modeling perspective or from performance optimization perspective. So I would say it depends on the nature of the audience. So that's my experience.
I love the "it depends" answer. So we always use them when anything is needed. So can we do this? It depends. Yeah, thanks very much, Nikola. And while we are looking at the year behind us, so I would also look at what's coming in front of us. So let's move one step to the future. Personally, when I'm looking about it, so I'm really excited what is ahead of us. So I'm looking from a perspective of community work and this user group, and I can announce that we will be moving forward next year again with a full speed like we did this year. And of course, starting January 12th, we are continuing our regular Wednesday sessions with a great set of speakers, so stay tuned for that. Also, we will come with some new formats next year. Some cooperations are in preparation. So I would like to use this moment to actually announce that a new thing that is starting on February 15 with one person we also have here. So it will be, well, again, connected with music. So we are starting on February 15th, our data jazz on Tuesdays, sorry. So Nikola and myself will be hosting a bit different format than I did throughout this year. So user group will continue as it was with Christian and myself. And with this cooperation with Nikola, we are going in some different direction, doing the Q&A sessions and similarly. So stay tuned. Lots of great guests are coming there. So we will host it every second Tuesday of each month and hope to see you there. And as you can see, on 15th of February, our first guest will be Matthew colleague here, Chris Webb. So we will go with Chris over a lot of details, but that's just from my personal perspective and point of view. But when I'm looking in a Power BI direction, so last few days Microsoft also brought us a lot of those early Christmas presents like hybrid tables, automatic aggregations, synchronous refresh, Spark lines, as Jeffrey mentioned. Deployment pipelines will come with a lot of things there. So with all of the things that are announced on the roadmap, and more of those will come soon. So what would you point out, any of you? So let's start a discussion here. So what is the one thing you are waiting the most, and what would you say year ahead of us is bringing us? So who wanna kickstart this one?
I already hinted, so I'll start. There is an item on the release plan called Long-Term Historical Near Real-Time Performance Usage Analytics. And as it stands today, if you want to get that usage analytics, activity log data, you need to write some scripts. You need to store that data. You need to then structure the data. You need to make sense of the data. And so the level of effort today to do BI on your BI platform, to understand adoption trends and just what's happening across your tenant, is a high bar today. So this release plan item, I am so excited about. And there's several things in it, but there's the thing that I'm excited the most about is, if I understand it correctly, we're going to have a dedicated workspace, and we're going to have the ability for Power BI administrators to be able to just see built-in reports with that data. And that will relieve a lot of the upfront friction, because it is amazing how many people I talk to that are not even gathering the data yet, even though it is so wildly valuable. So that's my vote.
So I want to jump on and say +1 to Melissa. So going back to my earlier data culture, driving correctly or driving safely analogy, what a lot of Power BI organizations are doing today is like driving without scraping the ice and snow off their windshields. So they might be able to see a little bit through the cracks here and there, but for the most part, they're driving blind and they're putting their organizations at risk. And a lot of this comes down to the barriers that Melissa described. In order to get these insights today, you basically need to build your own data warehousing and BI application on top of the data that's being produced by Power BI. And the improvements that the administration and governance team, like the team inside the product group, the improvements that they have planned to make it easier for administrators to see who's doing what's in the tenant, how do they relate to each other, and to build experiences and reports, insights around what's happening in Power BIs, like the BI on BI, without you needing to build the own application. It's really exciting to see what's planned. And I think that this, going back to the governance and compliance and data culture topics that really are what I think about the most, this year is going to be the year that changes the way that Power BI administrators do their jobs, and both raises the expectation for management and oversight and compliance, but also lowers the bar, the barrier for entry or the cost of entry dramatically at the same time.
That's exciting year in front of us. And I was just reading again for I don't know how much times the release plan, which is public still, but looking at natural language to DAX generation. What can you tell me about that, Jeffrey? So are you, your team is also involved, or what is expecting us there?
My team is definitely involved, but we are not the primary driver of this. We have dedicated AI team that's in charge of this. I definitely work with them a lot, and so I'm also it's a very high caliber team. I trust that they are doing a great job, but I haven't seen the outcome yet. I have seen the snippet that they ask me questions and how do I do this, how do I do that, but I personally haven't got a sneaky preview myself. So I'm looking forward to that one myself too. Yeah, and since Matthew already talked about, one of the big thing happened this past year is the work change within the Power BI product team, especially many of the senior leaders like Arun Ulag, Amir Ness have been promoted to lead this joint unified analytics team. So in my opinion, that work change definitely is a signal that the upper management team want to expand Power BI success into the larger space of analytics in general, especially in the enterprise large model, big data analytics space. So I do expect that we'll have a better support for enterprise data warehouse and big data analytics, especially good integration with Azure Synapse and Cosmos. That's definitely in the cards. But since Power BI is a general purpose data visualization tool, and the same improvement will naturally accrue to the benefit any direct query connectors and composite models in general. So we'll cover other direct query data sources like Snowflake, Redshift, BigQuery. So I do expect the Power BI product team will have emphasis on that. And that can be seen from the work change this past year.
That's good to hear. So talking to you, Nikola, now, so when you posted on LinkedIn a few days back that we are not holding the crystal ball here and we cannot predict the future, but if we could have it, what would it be for you?
I think I already spent 2 wishes of my golden fish in the previous part when I said what excited me in the previous year. That's what I'm expecting actually in the next year to happen. But if I can choose another one, another wish and another excitement is related to hybrid tables, which came to public preview a few days ago, and I started to play around. It promises a lot, and I'm really curious to see how it will, in which direction it will go during the next year. So I think it has a lot of potential and a lot of use cases. So I'm looking forward to this feature.
Yeah, me too, have to say. So, and Prathy, now as you are the last one in this round of the questions, so you can collect all the wishes from the others and put something on top.
Well, there are two important things that what Melissa said. Yeah, total +1 to that. I cannot wait to see all the metadata already pre-automated and to be able to available as a data set and see it. It's because like I worked on many projects where we have to do those things and it's a painful job. So yeah, definitely +1 for that. And what I am really excited to see is what's going to happen next. Is like we see all the Twitter changes, like, you know, the roles changed, people got promoted, but we haven't seen the output of it. So I'm really, really excited to see what's going to happen. By the way, how Power BI got and in the same leadership, I am really interested to see what's going to happen next in the whole Synapse world, and how the Power BI and the Synapse going to talk to each other, and how that's going to make our lives more exciting. And I still miss the whole MSBI world, where I have the SSRS, SSIS, SSAS, and all these things. It's like you have a bit of everything. It's like Indian curry, and so that's what I want. Is I feel like a Synapse is gonna bring back all that things, and it's gonna be similar to that. But yeah, that's what I'm more excited.
Yeah, I really love that analogy to good old fashioned BI world, where we had, I don't know, you are developing SSIS packages and don't touch the rest and things like that. But yeah, looking out also at the chat, so people are coming in with a lot of questions. So Melissa, you have lots of thumbs up also for your speech. So Christian, did you spot any great questions out there we would like to bring on?
Yes, there's a couple of questions that came on. I'll just put them on the screen real quick. Second. So there's a question that I guess is kind of directed towards Matthew. I'm not sure. Power BI REST APIs admin uses get user artifacts access as admin. This is a very useful API limitation. Is returns only one user, 200 calls per hour. Can this be increased to return more users or more calls per hour?
So from a API specific perspective, I don't have any insight into this particular API. I do know that the team that owns both the service and the admin APIs are always looking at what they can do to improve the experiences. Typically, if an API is throttled, there is a significant underlying technical reason for that throttling. So 200 per hour is not a lot. I would recommend looking at an alternative API like the Scanner API, which operates in a synchronous mode, and it has differential result sets, kind of like incremental refresh, so that you can get the full contents once asynchronously and then sort of trickle feed changes in from there. But for now, I do not know of any way to exceed that limitation or any specific plans by the Power BI team to increase that limit.
Thanks. I hope that answered the question. Let's see if there's any other questions that came in. Yes, from Umesh. Can we expect, I'm pretty sure that's advanced editor options like comment, debug, uncommenting breakpoints, like in VBA editor, to make it more accessible and easy to code.
Is that the advanced editor for DAX or for M? On the DAX side, the product team currently is mostly working closely with the external tools, as you guys already know, the Tableau editor and the DAX Studio are great tools, much more advanced in many ways than Power BI's own formula bar that's more targeting the self-service users. So I would expect in the near term, the product team will still continue to work closely with the partners on that one. But I don't expect any like in-house basic tools that are rolled out for that purpose.
Thanks a lot for that.
But that being said, there is a little bit of feature my team is working on that will make debugging DAX a little bit easier. And for people who have ever done Windows development, there's a Windows function called output debug string. It's like anybody who learned, let's say, programming, they want to do print, right? They litter their code with all kinds of internal, we call it printf. That's the really old style of printing things in C. And that's one of the most basic and debugging technique used by any programming language. And we want to introduce something similar to that for DAX. So that's something we expect to come soon.
That's exciting news. Let's check for some more questions. I don't think that much more has come in. Still, we have some of the questions that we received before the stream started. So let's go with this one. How do you see the future of analysis services multidimensional? Will Power BI ever include these functionalities?
I forgot, is it already announced that there was a plan to host analysis and multidimensional in Power BI service, right? Is that already released? I forgot.
I don't think we've said that out loud yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Now you did.
But I don't know what exactly at which stage that plan was. Okay, so no promise from me for sure.
Yeah. So the story, the message that I always like to send when this question comes up is that for well over a decade, Microsoft has been investing significantly and consistently in the tabular engine and has not been investing in the multidimensional engine. So that pattern of investment is likely to continue, and there are no specific plans to include analysis services multidimensional in the Power BI service. We're always listening to customers, working to understand their scenarios or priorities and specific blockers that would prevent tabular from being used. But at least for right now, expect all significant investments to be remaining focused on the tabular engine and not on multidimensional.
Thank you for that. I hope that answered the question to whomever put that there. And another one that came in and was asked frequently is what is the biggest roadblock to increased adoption of Power BI? Is there anything in particular that you see?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. Probably Cat Team can give us Matthew. Well, not Cat Team, Matthew.
I actually want Melissa to answer, so my snarky response will be the biggest roadmap to goodness, I can't talk anymore. The biggest roadblock to increase adoption is that there's only one Melissa Coates, but that would be putting too much of a burden on one pair of shoulders. In a less less flippant way, I think the biggest challenge is building a mature and dynamic data culture, because adoption is really about more people doing more of the right things in more of the right ways with more of the right data. And 9 times out of 10, it's not technical barriers, it's organizational barriers. Do people know what data exists? Do they have the tools and the guidance and the resources? Do they have like office hours or a Teams channel or Slack channel where they can go to ask questions, to get answers, to solve their own problems? If someone builds a BI solution that changes the way that their work or their team's work is done, are they recognized? Are they rewarded? Are they promoted? Are they encouraged to do more? This sort of executive sponsorship and organizational support for people doing things with data in Power BI to change and improve the way that the business works. This is something that a lot of successful organizations take for granted, but most organizations, they just don't have the muscle to say, thank you for the change and the value that it brings. Let's do more of this, and let's encourage and support the people that are doing it today. And until that becomes the norm, the value that Power BI or any self-service BI tool brings, that value is really dependent on individuals who are motivated enough to find the tools, to find the data, to figure out how to use them, to do a thing, to solve a problem, to share a solution. And even though that bottom-up work is valuable and it's necessary regardless of the data culture, like regardless of how mature the organization is, that personal effort is still the spark of change. But without the culture to support it, that spark sort of comes and goes, and it doesn't have a chance to become something bigger.
Yeah, I echo that. And I think to add to that is like the one way to start that is to implement the COE in the organization. And Microsoft has this amazing blog about how to start the Center of Excellence in your organization. I think that's a very good way to increase the adoption of the Power BI. When you have the Center of Excellence, that is where it's like you could see what is the activity of the users and all those things, and you could engage more users to use the Power BI. I would totally encourage to look at that COE documentation. It's amazing.
And just to add one more thing to that, I almost want to step back and say, what do you mean by adoption? And if you go back to the Power BI adoption roadmap, the second article is actually titled Maturity Levels. But part of that article, we introduced this idea of there being 3 kinds of adoption. And just very briefly, we talk about organizational adoption, user adoption, and solution adoption. So they're all super interrelated, right? But adoption is not just more people viewing more reports, publishing more data sets, et cetera. It's so much more to it. So the biggest obstacles, yes, everybody, to what both Matthew and Prathy said, it's always a people problem. But I would go back and sort of analyze those 3 types of adoption and figure out what are you really good at and where are your pain points at, and what maybe KPIs for the new year could you create to start taking baby steps where you can make improvements in the areas that it makes sense.
Thank you for that answer. As far as the data culture goes, we also had a session about data culture this year, so you can go back where Matthew talked about, and you can go back and rewatch it on our channel and have a look at the data culture in depth a bit more. And Yeah, with this, I'll hand it back to you, Augustine.
So yeah, I was while you were picking the questions, I went through names from our subscriptions from YouTube channel, also from the people who posted comments and everything throughout this session. So I will. As announced in the beginning, so we have a lot of swag packages from our sponsors. This one is the biggest one. I'll show it on the screen. So coming to one person we picked out of the comments throughout the session now, and the rest, almost 30 packages, will draw the same thing as we did this one and reach out to on our social media and just let us know. So whoever we pick now, as I don't have an address and cannot pull you out to give me an address, reach out to me on or Christian on social media, and let's see. So let me just share a screen for a second. So we didn't have much time to prepare all of this, and it's not the latest technology, so we just picked simple web app with I put in all the names that were coming through this chat, and we are picking single winner now for the biggest package. And what I will do is just start and pick a single name, which will come Marco Mori. Congratulations. Reach out to us on the social media, me and Christian, YouTube, Twitter, whatever, to exchange the address and the package. So just to show to you again, this one, no, sorry, this one is coming to you. So with t-shirts from Avanad and Zebra BI, cards, bottle, Bluetooth speakers, so a lot of things will be, so your early Christmas present is coming, probably coming after Christmas, but it's still an early Christmas present. So with that said, so I would like to invite, so we are close to an end, and would like to invite each and every of you speakers today to share with the audience your closing words. So Christmas is coming, presents are waiting, maybe hope everybody already bought their presents. So let's share some closing words with our audience and entire Power BI community. So who want to start?
You need to pick someone, Augustine. You're the boss.
Okay, Nikola, we can go with you.
Yeah, okay, so from my side, it was pleasure to be with, as you said, the brightest minds of Power BI ecosystem, let's call it this way. And I really felt like, you know, those junior players when they're training with stars, and then one day they get a chance to play the real game with those stars. So I really felt today like this, and I wanted to thank you, Augustine, of course, for inviting me, and I wanted to thank to Melissa, to Prathy, Matthew, and Jeffrey for having a chance to talk to them and to hear their wisdom. It's truly appreciated. Other than that, thanks everyone else for joining, and I wish everyone nice holidays, peaceful holidays, and COVID-free next year, so we can all gather together somewhere in person.
Who will go next? Melissa, you can take it next. Thanks, Nikola.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was fun. And it's fun to do this sort of format that's a little bit more casual and fun. So I'll just keep it short and sweet with that. And good job organizing, by the way. Augustine sent us questions a couple days ago. Let us prepare and plan, and that's always appreciated.
Thank you, Melissa. Jeffrey, you want to continue?
Sure, yeah. Thanks again for having me. It's always a great pleasure to talk to the community directly. So on the product side, we always look at problems and bugs and the incidents, but it's a very fresh experience to go back to talk to the people who appreciate the product and fully support the product team for all these years. So it's my great pleasure. Have a great holiday. It's my honor to talk with the honored guest here on this show, and hope to have this opportunities again to communicate with the community directly.
Yeah, it was a pleasure having you, and I can only tell you that you need to come more often to community events. Everybody's asking, where is Jeffrey? Why is he not speaking on more of the events? So everybody's looking forward to see you. Thank you, Jeffrey. Prathy.
Yes. Well, I can only say thank you to everyone. It's a great honor to share a panel with all of you. It's great. It's a nice feeling, and actually, it's a quite special time for me because my sister who lives in US is here with me, and my partner is also here. So we are having great time. I'm on holidays already. I started last week, so it's it's a really nice time, and I'm having fun. Hope you all have fun. Have a great Christmas and a really good New Year. And hopefully in 2022, we will all see in person.
Yep,
and hopefully I'll see most of you at BITS.
Yep. So if not on SQL Bits, I don't know, let's do next year this event in person somewhere. So we'll draw who will host it. So Matthew, from your side, any final thoughts?
I just want to say thank you for organizing this. It is a joy and a pleasure to spend time during the holidays with so many brilliant and wonderful people and for the community at large. So please get your vaccination, get your booster, wear your mask, stay safe, because these are the things that will be necessary prerequisites for all of the things that we're looking for in the new year. We want to come to BITS, we want to come visit, we want to do the in-person things that we used to do before. So please be part of the solution and help build the future that we all want to see. So thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you for the wishes, Christian, myself. So we also wish you all, you here, the speakers today and the entire audience that joined us, great holidays, because year was tough. Hopefully you can manage, do some rest, meet the family, enjoy. This was our present to the community for this year. So next year we'll continue with a small presence throughout the year. But so I really feel blessed that a lot of you supported not just Power BI user group in Stuttgart, but all and every user community out there with your participation, effort, constantly asking for new presentations and everything. So thank you, everyone, from our side as well. And to all the speakers here, I was listening to all of your nice closing words, and I really don't have much to add. So thank every one of you, Matthew, Nikola, Prathy, Jeffrey, Melissa. So thank you for joining. Thank you for spending. I know that some of you are already on vacation regarding the job, but thanks for sharing this hour or two with us, and wish you all Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a successful next year.
Thanks, you
Thank
too.
you.
All the best.
Thanks very much,
All the
everyone.
best. Enjoy the holiday.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.